and forth. You know, who's going to be the one that has the favorite? Ike says, as
the winner-runner-up.
Kansane avenge Muzzy, who was not able to get through to the winner's match. But in Group D, we talked a little bit about this. Roger versus Tyler, an APAC battle. Went into this day saying, the one player I did not want to go up against is Hunterace this tournament. If I can get past him, I feel really good. Do you feel like you also agree with that sentiment here from Ike, or perhaps he's over-exaggerating?
I do think he's in a very tough spot. You know, Hunterace, as you mentioned during the opening, was able to essentially just sniff out what Ike was going to play.
What happened here, as Ike's going to play what many consider to be the best deck in Hearthstone, or one of the best decks in Hearthstone, up against the X Factor, Hunterace, and his gang of misfit tech cards.
Yeah, and we see the cards that we were talking about in the opening there, Ancestral Healing, Wild Pyromancer. You know, specifically, he was looking for anti-aggro tools in this deck, and his reasoning that he broke down for us when we had a chance to talk to him was that all of the versions that he tried that were, say, Thunderhead based, you know, they were Thunderhead Zap, Lightning Bolt decks, or, you know, a bunch of Lightning Storms and things, he felt like they put him in a position, similarly Rain of Toads, another popular card, that forced him to overload into his power turns. What makes this deck so powerful, largely, is Hagatha and Walking Fountain. Those are really the cards you try and leverage to beat the aggressive decks. But if you are forced to overload yourself going into your late turns, you're just not able to play those on curve, and you, despite being able to clear the board, don't actually turn the corner. Which is the reason that he has Giggling Inventor in his deck. 7-mana Giggling Inventor. He's like, yeah, it has some synergy with Shutterwalk, but it's also mostly just that it allows him to bridge the gap into those powerful 8-drops.
Yes. And also don't overload, because we have seen some Shamans struggle with those overload turns going
Another one of these.
Yes, this is not an arena deck featuring some really good cards. It actually is Hunterace specifically talking about the role of each individual card. And it's something that you actually hear a lot of. And the top level players, they value that 1 or 2 card difference very highly. So a lot of other players, they think, you can just substitute one card. It's not going to be that big of a difference. And you might be right in that small sample size. But a small sample size is all you get in a tournament.
Right.
So Hunterace needs to make the count. And that is why he is banning Warrior and trying to account for all those aggressive matchups that he might face on the opposite end.
I mean, this really does just look like a really powerful arena hand. You know, you got your Omega Defender, Giggling Inventor.
I'm still getting used to the fact that Hex is 4 mana, because I spent yesterday playing Tavern Brawl a lot during my downtime, and I was playing the Pavel mid-range Shaman. Ooh, this is interesting, actually. Hold that thought. Hunterace not toteming. What is he trying to do here?
So specifically, he wants to play around Backstab Raiding Party. He doesn't want to give Ike the ability to fire off a Raiding Party this turn by enabling Backstab. And he actually is playing around exactly what's in Ike's hand. You know, he sniffs out the fact that, okay, well, if your hand is this combination of cards, I'm going to slow you down. And exactly that happens.
That is absolutely brilliant. Hunterace making the big plays.
The big plays, which is make no play.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No, but it's really interesting, right? Like that little thing. So many people, you know, you as a streamer, for instance, people will be like, oh, miss totem. It's like, no, I did not totem. Or like, you know, you're playing Rogue. It's like, miss hero power. It's like, I did not hero power because my opponent's deck contains Harrison Jones, and I don't want to give them an extra card if they get the Harrison Jones. This is, you know, Hunterace with sort of that next level read of, well, a hand that, you know, makes sense for Ike to have here is this Backstab Raiding Party, and I want to slow him down.
Yeah, and I think that might end up paying off huge dividends, because now Ike, I mean, yes, he got to develop an SI7 agent, so he had a contingency plan, but everyone who plays Rogue and played against Rogue in the past few months can recognize the power of Raiding Party. Very similar to Master Skull, just drawing on 3, setting up powerful tempo swings. Now, Hunterace, he has his mind control tech, which is pretty valuable. Do you think he wants to fight for board, or is he just going to kind of pass here now that the SI7 needs?
It's interesting because he does have the Hagatha scheme. So there is some incentive to, I'm just going to kind of sit back. This does give Ike the ability to possibly just use Backstab now in order to enable Raiding Party, but if this is like a point past at which this is really efficient for Ike. So yeah, he's going to go ahead and Shadow Step into Raiding Party into the SI in order to take this out.
Yep, and saves the backstab.
This guy's
and this also is something that he could have done whether Hunterace played this or not. It just saves some damage to his face.
Exactly.
And against Rogue, Rogue isn't really a deck that you expect to go wide, where you're actually going to get value from that mind control tech, right? And you know, similarly, you're not really able to give them the time to build up Hagatha's scheme to just blow up all their stuff because they're such a burst damage oriented deck.
That's right. Now Hunterace, he has that Omega Defender, which seems to be appealing at first glance, but we have to account for your opponent's turn 5 now that they've played Raiding Party, and you are aware of the tempo swings available through Dread Corsair and Waggle Pick, that new weapon from the Rise of Shadows that allows you to return a minion to your hand.
Yeah, and part of Hunterace's explanation for including Omega Defender in his deck was that he just kind of wanted a taunt to help protect him from Rogue's burst damage. And at this stage of the game, well, he's at 26. He's not necessarily looking to just throw out his taunt to have it die to backstab Waggle Pick and not have that available to him later.
Yeah, the Waggle Pick is very powerful to remove. It's really powerful to push damage. Its versatility is what's often being one of the foundational cruxes to this tempo rogue and why they're able to set up big burst or even just fight for board very efficiently.
All right, well, it is the Omega Defender that does come down, and there is the option for Ike to remove this if he wants to just go ahead and backstab Pick. It's not 100% mana efficient. What other options does he have?
The other efficient use of his mana would be to use the backstab in SI, and then he has 2 more mana. He could play, say, the evil Cabal Rat. And I don't know if that's exactly what he's looking for because it develops a little bit weaker than the Waggle Pick and the Dread Corsair.
Yeah, the discount on the Dread Corsair here just makes Waggle Pick such a powerful tempo play. And he did save the backstab here by using the Shadow Stab previously, so he's able to clear this off and get the damage in from the SI agent as well.
At the same time, Hunterace, part of the reason why the Control Shaman is considered to be an effective class at fighting against Rogue is because of its arsenal of 3 damage through Hagatha, through Lightning Storm. Ziliax here is really good. So Hunterace is not in trouble just yet.
All right, so the Ziliax does come down and break this up. And now, another Dread Corsair from Ike.
Yeah, and I think Ike is at the point where he could really start developing really big turns. He could play pretty much half his hand at this turn.
Right.
But the question is, is he overextending into the Hagatha scheme? And then if that is the case, what's his reload? And I think that's where the Thief Rogue can really shine. Because they're able to replace their hand fairly easily and not be super dependent on card draw like Raiding Party and Myers and Sable Element.
All right, Ike does pick up an Ethereal Lackey, which is
good too.
Arguably the strongest of the lackeys. If you look at the statistical win rate, I believe the Ethereal Lackey has the highest of all of them.
That or Cobalt Lackey that deals 2 damage. I think both of them are very high.
Yeah.
In terms of
I do think this is #1 by at least a small bit.
Okay.
Another possible Raiding Party, Pickpocket and Sprint. So lots of value options for Ike here. He already has his Waggle Pick, #2. So you only would get a little bit of card draw, I believe, off of the...
Oh man, and he bounces the Ethereal Lackey to give himself another spell and a combo activator.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
And I like this restraint on the second Dread Corsair. Yes, I could have developed a big board, but he knows that Hunterace could try to squeeze out area effect cards. So, instead, force Hunterace to use it suboptimally and then develop again with a second Waggle Pick.
And Hunterace here, he's at 19. He's already used his Ziliax, so his remaining healing is a single copy of Witch's Brew and the 2 Walking Fountains, none of which are in his hand. We're seeing how Rogue's ability to just present a few medium impact threats makes the hexes in Hunterace's hand fairly ineffective, as well as the Hagatha scheme. It's been building up, but there's still just a lot of cards in Ike's hand because thanks to Raiding Party, thanks to the Ethereal Lackey getting him additional cards, he has just been able to keep up pace with resources as well as pressure on the board.
Yeah. At the same time, there's not many good hex targets in this deck. When I say good, you're thinking about big, heavy dragons like your Sarah in the Mage deck.
Usually there's Edwin, right? That's the only thing you're really super thrilled to hex. Does fire off 1 right now.
I like it. And he even gets a nice outcome with the Tauntaun to gain a little bit extra life here. I think Ike probably feels like this is a setup for turn 8. Hunterace has been holding to the coin And turn 8 could be a really big swing if he's not careful.
Well, one interesting thing about Hex in these Control Shaman decks is the ability to Hex into Walking Fountain means you are guaranteed to have a 0-attack minion that Walking Fountain gets to hit. So you can often kill multiple things while still having a ton of health left in your Walking Fountain.
That's right.
Shadow Step, another raiding party, and Assassinate. I think Ike is deciding between Assassinate and Shadow Step here. He has the Ethereal Lackey. He could just Shadow Step and rebuy, or Shadow Step, a Burglar or the SI rebuy. The Leroy in hand as well. Shadow Step, gives you some pretty scary stuff as well.
Interesting.
All right, I would guess we're seeing Spirit Bomb here. Timeout's not very useful. Corruption, yeah. And does discount the Vendetta. He could just use Vendetta to push damage here if he wanted to, but kind of kind of excessive, I think.
Ike flirting with the idea of utilizing
the Shadow Step,
but he keeps Leroy in his back pocket, which I think is the important thing.
Right.
And now, if Hunterace had that Hagatha, Ike would have... he wouldn't have enough damage. I thought I was assuming he had a Waggle pick, but in this position, Hunterace, is he forced to pull the trigger on the Hagatha scheme?
I don't know that it's getting better, right? Like, what board is Hunterace hoping for this in the future?
Right.
And I was actually somewhat surprised they didn't pull the trigger when there were just a couple of minions in play, like the 2/3/3s. Right. I thought that actually was a fairly juicy Hagatha scheme board against Rogue, but he hasn't seen the second Dread Corsair. I believe he actually knows there's another pirate in the hand based on the card positioning from the raiding party.
Yes.
So he has
actually, that was the first one that was in his opening hand. He played one raiding party, and then he had a Waggle pick naturally.
No, I'm saying the Dread Corsair. I believe he knows another pirate, and it makes a lot of sense for that. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and pull the trigger on Hagatha scheme right here. That's not going to get much better.
Yeah.
Now it is totem time.
I like the restraint for holding on to Hagatha scheme. It's gotten a lot better position, although it's still scary with the amount of damage.
There is Van Cleef. So what could this look like for Ike? He has the Waggle pick. He could like Waggle pick Dread Corsair if he wanted to Vendetta Van Cleef.
Right.
He does know that there's Earthshock and another copy of Hex in Hunterace's deck.
I think I like Van Cleef just as a 6/6 here.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to pump it up too much. Hunterace even has an Earthshock in the deck, and coincidentally in the hand. This also sets up the Leroy Shadow Step, so Hunterace has to heal or set up a wave of taunts, which he actually does have through the form of Giggling Inventor.
There's also the Acidic Swamp Ooze here, which will kill the Waggle pick and bounce one of these.
That's true. In fact, Acidic Swamp Ooze plus the Giggling Inventor.
Yeah, is available with coin.
Very strong.
We'll see what hits. Okay, so that means Van Cleef is sticking around. So will Hunterace pull the trigger on this Hex? Is he just dead if he does?
If he gets a taunt totem, he
does have ancestral healing, but there's the Vendetta. I think that Hunterace almost has to coin out the Giggling Inventor to be able to beat Leroy plus Shadow Step, though he doesn't know that there's another Shadow Step. Ike has used his deck's natural Shadow Step, I believe, and this one is from Lackey.
Oh, wow. Okay, Farsight gives him another reroll. He's not dead yet, but Hunterace is playing with fire. A 4-mana Giggling Inventor.
I mean, I think he has to go. He could coin coin Twilight Drake Ancestral Healing. I think he just has to play Giggles here. If he just coins out the Hex, I think he dies. Yep. Coin Hex. And he thinks there's no more Waggle pick. He thinks there's no more Shadow Step, but that Shadow Step from the Ethereal Lackey is enough to combine with this Leroy and give Ike a 1-game lead in the series.
That's a big win for Ike,
It is.
And I'm stunned that Hunterace not playing the Giggling Inventor. Obviously, he thought a lot about it. He didn't play things super quickly, but I gotta wonder and question the methodology because you're in a position where, you could die and yes, into thousands of Hearthstone cards. But that's in the past. Now we're going to switch roles a little bit. Hunterace is the Tempo Rogue. This is a deck that he said that it was just too good not to bring. Ike said the same thing about Zoo Warlock. He said Zoo Warlock is just the nuts. Although, to be fair, any deck that Ike brings that he's confident, remotely confident, he kind of says that line.
That's true. Ike is one who is a little bit prone to hyperbole, but I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that it is a huge deal that he has that Bloodsteel Corsair in his opening hand.
Yeah, we were debating it early this morning. I think that if you do bring Zoo Warlock, Blood Corsair is so useful against the myriad of classes that leverage their weapons. Rogue, Warrior. I mean, you even see Hunter sometimes as being very useful against to stop their board from being destroyed.
Yep. Hunterace, though, with a very strong hand here, double backstab. No real way to advance his own game plan, but does have the easy answer to this Flame Imp right here.
Yeah, amusingly enough, Hunterace can play his entire hand by next turn.
Yeah.
But what's important is that he doesn't let Zoo develop. And this is a contrast to what we saw yesterday's game, where we saw Rogue players choose to keep Edwin Van Cleef for that huge tempo swing, which is, true to its moniker. However, let Zoo develop too much to the point where they just fell far behind and died.
Put this apple on your head.
Like saying, all right, you have another one?
Oh, what a draw!
That is huge. We see the shake of the head as the implication of this sort of wash over Hunterace is backstab number 2 into that top decked Evil Miscreant.
He's so relieved. And I know Hunterace.
And a grin for Mike. Okay, all right.
Hunterace is a very emotional player. And that's something that I feel like, in a certain capacity, his youth betrays him. He's a very young kid, 18 or 19 years old. He's only been playing competitive Hearthstone for about a year and a half. He's even documented some of his journey going through anxiety and whatnot publicly through a twit logger, and it was very touching. And he's kind of found solace in competitive Hearthstone. And sometimes can't escape that nerve.
Right.
He was telling me how nervous he was. I'm like, dude, everyone fears you, and you're the one that's nervous. And he's like, I can't help it. It's my first championship.
Right. Yeah, it is very interesting. Hunterace's story of how he got here. He just kept putting up tremendous result at all of the tour stops throughout the past year, but he really was never able to break through at a playoff. When we sat down with all the players at the beginning of this event, the casters sort of interviewed them as a group to kind of get their thoughts on the format, the metagame, everything. And it was the first time we'd ever sat down with Hunterace that way. Everyone else had been to a championship. Muzzy actually hadn't been to a championship this year, but we talked to him last year. His championship appearance. It's the World Championship last year. But Hunterace, it was the first time. And, it was kind of funny in a way because he was not in our little inside jokes, like, do you have any questions for us? And he was asking us questions. He's really doing it.
Yeah.
You didn't know.
We have an inside joke when we interview players because one thing that Nims used to do all the time when he was first helping us host it was ask, do the players have any questions for us? And to which we look at him and say, why would they have questions for us? We're asking questions. And then we started just asking it every single time, and then it became a meme. And then Hunterace actually took initiative and spent 20 minutes asking us questions. Yeah. It's like, wait, you're the player here. So that's why this kid's adorable. That's why we all love him. His personality is great. Loves Hearthstone to death. But yet at the same time, I just wish the best for him, and I hope that he can contain himself to the point that he doesn't let himself tilt, because he is prone to tilting, self-admittedly.
Yeah, and we heard Ike as well in the interview piece just prior to the show, where he was saying that when he qualified for this tournament, it was through the tiebreaker tussles that were our way of resolving the final world spots. Just at the last championship, because there were multiple players who were already qualified, and he was in a position where it looked very unlikely that he would be able to qualify. All of the other players, or both the other players, were tough matchups for him. He managed to pull it out though, just by kind of having the laid back attitude of, okay, well, if I win, great, but I don't expect to.
And I think he might feel very similar in this position.
Yes.
Tempo Rogue has gotten ahead and is staying ahead. I like that Dread Corsair play a lot because it shuts down Ike's development. What Hunterace is disallowing is Ike to leverage things like Grim Rally.
Yeah.
And Ike had a great hand for Grim Rally.
Right.
But it's just not going to be effective right now.
Yeah, Ike had the possibility to just abusive in the egg, get it killed, or Grim Rally the egg and Grim Rally again. But now this is a position where he's got a single Scarab, a 1/1, and his opponent has a hold over the board as well as quite a few cards left in hand, and we know that one of those is another Evil Miscreant, which is decidedly just the strongest card in this deck, and certainly in this matchup.
Important to note that a lot of players have chosen one Blood Corsair in their deck list as tech, while yesterday we saw Killin' All Day have 2, and I liked 2. Ike now doesn't have the ability to shut down that waggle pick should Hunterace pick up 1. That being said, I still like Ike's development on the board. He has 2 Grim Rallies. He needs to get use out of it. Leroy is effectively a dead card with the Grim Rally. I think this is his best move.
And Hunterace here, he has this Witchy Lackey he can use, both to, to generate his, turn his initial Miscreant into a 4-drop, as well as combo into his second Miscreant here. And I think we, may very well see him just double trade into the Direwolf and make that play. He even has he could do something, a couple of different things as well.
Right.
He could just eviscerate, even prep eviscerate, Oh, just gonna prep Miscreant. All right, yeah. If he's gonna play the Miscreant anyway, you start with the prep Miscreant. See what else you got.
Yeah, this is a correct ordering if he picks up Ethereal Lackey, which he does. And that gives him the ability to discover a spell and then play it for free.
Faceless Lackey, though, and he already has the Eviscerate to play.
Okay. Yeah, Faceless Lackey is better for
He can Eviscerate Faceless Lackey, Witchy Lackey, which gives him such a strong board here. I was just going to dagger. Okay, interesting. He wants to get rid of every single thing on Ike's side of the board. Huh.
Yep, giving him no opportunity to develop.
I'm a little surprised to see that over Faceless plus Witchy here, because he would have had a 4-drop instead of the 1/3, and then 2 1/1s and a 2-drop. And it feels like that just puts Ike in such a tough position, whereas, right now, Ike's hand is quite bad. So, there's nothing he can really do to take advantage of the fact that Hunterace does not have, a very wide, strong board.
So, what was your suggested play? You want to play...
I felt like rather than daggering, the Witchy Lackey and Faceless Lackey was
so then
looking like it would be very strong.
In that position, 5 or 6 mages would be on the board, and I think Hunterace says, I don't have a way to deal with Sea Giant.
Okay.
So then, if Ike has like a Sea Giant play,
yep.
then
I buy it. Yeah. I wasn't really doing the Sea Giant calculations, so that makes a lot of sense.
But, it just shows you how careful Hunterace is. He's playing around a lot of stuff now. I think he's saying, like, last game, I didn't play around certain things. I'm going to go for this. A little too disrespectful last game, and now very cautious this game.
Vanish can be real powerful. Not necessarily in this matchup, because your opponent has just so many small things, but yeah, just going to take a second Vendetta.
Oh, yeah. I'll take an upgraded Wing Blast every time here. This is so powerful in this spot.
He can take out this Magic Carpet and now use the Witchy Lackey.
Right. And now he's not afraid of Sea Giant because he has 2 removal pieces to use to clean it up. Oh, that's even more damage.
7 damage. Does cost 1 more, right? But it costs 0 because...
Right. Because...
That's funny.
That's so insane. What kind of combo is that?
Wow. So he has a second Vendetta that costs 0. It's not even cost 4 less. It's cost 0.
Yeah.
So the additional cost, I believe it's Kirin-Tor Tricaster is the name of that 4-drop. And that is spell damage plus 3, but your spells cost 1 more. So, but Vendetta specifically sets its cost to 0 if you have a spell from another class in your hand.
Yeah, and it overrides that.
And we look at the Starfire, it costs 7. That's crazy.
Well, speaking of crazy, Ike has AoE to win back the board.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because, Zoo Warlock played Hellfire once upon a time, unironically, because there weren't better cards to play. And now I feel like we're turning back the clock.
Hunterace is 1 damage off lethal, though, right? He has
you're right.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Starfire for 8.
And there's not much that I can do about it.
No, he can just Starfire face for 8 now. It doesn't have to necessarily... there's an underbelly fence, so maybe it's not going to be doing that.
Yeah, he's 19 damage. Faceless Lackey could discover chargers or extra damage.
Right.
So you could start with that, but then you couldn't play Starfire.
If you don't Starfire now, you potentially lose the extra damage from your guy, but I don't know how much that matters.
I think
you also lose the rush and plus on underbelly fence, which you just drew, though, which might be more important, or at least at least mitigate that.
And I think because of the threat of Sea Giants in plural,
Does this work to you?
he's gonna hold on to it. But he's so firmly far ahead that I like almost anything Hunterace does. In fact, I kind of like him to restrict the board by trading in his 1/1 again.
Yep, that's what he's doing.
And I don't think he has to play this Faceless Lackey. I think he just re-dagger. It's very consistent with his game plan, and Hunterace is firing on all cylinders. Immaculate play this turn. But he has that Hellfire.
He does, but it does leave a lackey in play, rather than miscreant in play, and then
Right.
there's still a 5 damage Starfire, plus
Yes,
the dagger.
still 1 damage off. Here's the thing, though. Zoo Warlock eventually wants the life tap, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, you could just Starfire face, attack you down to 1, and then is there even a... There's just the Voidwalker, I believe, in Ike's deck that could allow him to survive if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I expect that we'll see life tap anyway. He can just leave open the Starfire available to him.
Yeah. The Starfire is a surprise factor. Now it's Hunterace's turn to surprise Ike with some of these card generators, because Ike's going to be very tempted to life tap because he's in a desperate situation.
You can just fire up Vendetta here, leaving a single 1/1 against this board, plus the Starfire in hand.
Right.
And yeah, Ike is now the one who has really no options here. He has to life tap to find anything, because otherwise he dies on board.
Yeah. Surprising amount of damage coming out from Ike this turn, though. Like, the double Grim Rally with the Abusive Sergeant on Leroy is still about half of Hunterace's life.
Yeah, he could attack for 11 this turn, but unfortunately for him, Hunterace is still at 25.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that in this game, a lot of what we saw here was just the power level of the Thief package, the Vendettas and the Underbelly Fence, just leaving Ike with so little that he was able to do. Right. Obviously, Ike had a pretty poor draw early on, but Hunterace's Miscreant did a ton of work, as well as his just awareness of, okay, I need to kill this Scarab Egg, pick off the Scarab to come out of it before something like Grim Rally can get online.
That element they can't prepare for. When you have that stolen card, it can be really difficult. And Hagatha is another MVP card that can do that. And this is also Hunterace's best matchup. This is very favored for the Controller Shaman. So this is what he's really hoping to gun down. And even though people point at Token Druid being the weak deck, statistically, before we factor in intent cards, Zoo looks like to be the deck that Ike needs to get through.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, these stats we're citing they're ladder stats. Right. So it's hard to really say who between these decks, the more unusual versions, are going to be favored, because I don't think we have probably more than the games Hunterace played on ladder with this deck to determine what this deck's actual matchups are. But they're pretty good if you have both Hagatha schemes in your opening hand against a board-centric deck, that's for sure.
Interesting that he also even just threw away Hagatha straight up. That's how much he valued just not letting the board getting way out of control.
Yeah, I mean, Hagatha is incredibly powerful, but Zoo is a deck that puts you on a very, very fast clock. You need to be able to answer things well before you coin out a Hagatha for a 3 damage AoE on turn 7.
Yeah, if it's even relevant by the time Grim Valley comes around, or they have Scarab Eggs.
Right, that's a Faceless and Goblin Lackeys.
Yep. One thing that's also fairly important for Hunterace is the Wild Pyromancers.
And he has all the tools. He has the coin along with his Wild Pyromancer and the Ancestral Healing, so he could possibly have multiple uses of that Pyromancer's ability and have it stick in play.
Having the coin here is fairly clutch for that specific reason. It was almost to the point where players were sarcastically mocking Hunterace, like, dude, you have Wild Pyromancer, but you have almost no spells to really utilize it, and you have double Acidic Swamp Ooze. You really hate every other class in the game that's not Shaman. And I think it's paying off in spades. I mean, Hunterace even went a little bit on Twitter talking about how, yes, he knows his Shaman deck looks very weird, but all of them have very specific uses of it, and then Orange was backing up, obviously, because they practiced together. So, I think that as we see the Shaman continue to develop in this series, it's looking more and more scary.
Yeah, it's worth noting, this is the first time we've had a tournament of this size. Certainly the first time we had the World Championship, so close to the release of an expansion. Very often at championship events, there'd be kind of settled versions of what deck is the best and what versions of that deck are the strongest. That's just not true right now. Right now, we're in a world where players are both seeking, what are the strongest decks, period, and what are the best versions of those decks. Shaman is the class that had sort of the most disagreement. There's tons of different versions of Shaman in this tournament, despite everyone generally deciding, okay, well, control is the way to take the deck.
Now trying to evaluate what can he do the turn before the Hagatha scheme, or if he extends too far deep, his opponent can coin out the Hagatha scheme.
possibilities.
I think almost any way he slices it, though, Magic Carpet is something that he wants to play as soon as he can to try to establish board dominance. Faceless Lackey, looking for something to survive AoE. Okay. A little bit of foreshadowing.
Well,
still a fearsome board, though. Something that Hunterace might be thinking about pulling the trigger. If he's greedy, though, he might choose something else.
Hunterace actually has the ability to Pyro, Coin, Acolyte, Ancestral Healing here.
Oh, I like it.
So that gives him an extra card, gets the Acolyte on the board.
Pain, speak to me.
Job's done.
And this does wipe out everything but the carpet. And then this turn, the schemes tick to 5. So that's going to be enough to wipe out the carpet and whatever ends up following them up.
Right, and a Grim Rally. And also shuts down the Sea Giant. Really well played here by Hunterace, spotting every single possibility that Zoo can develop in this spot. And it's inconvenient for Ike, to say the least. Now, he could continue to develop. Knife Juggler here, though, is a little bit risky. You risk giving Hunterace an extra card if the juggle has the Acolyte.
Right. He does still have the carpet, so anything can attack immediately. He could play the...
He could Goblin Lackey just the Acolyte immediately to try, and then play Knife Juggler.
I think Goblin Lackey has the most iconic voice line of this set. Double time and double pay. I didn't do that very well, but...
Commit to it, Kibler. Don't cut yourself off midway.
I mean,
I got your back.
I finished it, but I did it badly. I'm just being judgmental of myself. I'm committing, but I'm committing to the fact that I was bad at that.
I liked it.
There it is.
I think you did great.
I don't know if my voice is quite squeaky enough.
Yeah. Maybe if we get you a balloon of helium.
Ooh.
Well, this board is relatively innocuous, but annoying at the same time.
Right.
Does Hunterace choose to hack a scheme, or does he Zilliax in this spot?
There's two kind of major threats here right now. There's like the carpet itself and the Knife Juggler, right? Because if the carpet remains in play, then everything else that comes into play is getting buffed, and potentially taking down, say, the Zilliax. That scheme does end up killing both of them, which is kind of a big deal. Does leave the Argent Squire, but that's only a single minion in play.
Well, I was playing a deck similar to this. It was a big shaman with Muck Morpher and big bad Archmage and a bunch of like really fun cards. I was playing with Chris Sierra, who did the reveal stream and on Community Manager for Hearthstone. And I was like, why are you so afraid of Magic Carpet if you're a deck that just plays a bunch of AoE? It has Rush. It doesn't have Charge.
It's true.
So let your opponent keep playing minions and just developing, and then use your giant AoEs like Havoc Scheme to clean it up. If you trade to Knife Juggler here, Ike is incentivized to use his Divine Shield instead, or to use another Rush minion. And then it's like Rush can't do anything to you beyond that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So I think I like this trade into the Knife Juggler because that actually can really mix you up.
All right, Solarium time. Gonna go digging finds. Abusive Sergeant, Void Walker.
All once.
And another carpet.
Ooh, a second carpet. But now that, like you were mentioning and observing, Hagatha Scheme can pretty much kill everything at this point.
Yeah, both of these are up to 6 right now. I do suspect... Oh!
That is greedy if he does this.
That is pretty greedy on Ike's part to use the Divine Shield. But granted, he's also kind of in a position where, well, if you have a Hagatha Scheme in a lot of trouble, and he does know that there's one card that Hunterace kept still in his hand.
Yeah, I don't know about
the
that.
Queen.
Yeah, Hagatha out in full force. Hagatha Scheme, the Queen, and the Bewitched. Yeah, this is definitely greed for Ike. And also he misses damage, which is a little bit uncharacteristic of him. However, if he has that Sea Giant, I can totally understand.
Right.
Like we were talking about.
I feel like from Ike's perspective, at this stage of the game, this is a pretty bad matchup.
Yeah.
And, B, you're in a position where your hand is kind of poor if you aren't able to stick a board. Both Leroy and Sea Giant are weak if your opponent is able to clear your board anyway. So I think that maybe taking the road that's, okay, well, I want to just be able to maximize what I have going on here in the case that I'm fortunate enough that my opponent does not have AoE.
Interestingly enough, I know a few of us have bagged on having Archvillage Rafam in the Zoo Warlock deck. I kind of wonder if it's even just better against like Hunterace's deck in this position, because it doesn't feel like Ike has enough substance to push through if he doesn't land a Sea Giant down. And it's like in this spot, what is Ike really relying upon? In fact, he doesn't even have a single minion. Like, had he had the Argent Squire, maybe this Evil Genius could...
Yeah, it's true. And I do think that he might have played the game differently if he had the Evil Genius in his hand at that stage.
Sure. I mean,
but
absolutely.
it's it is a card that's just still in your deck, right?
And again, I get the logic. He's coming up on turn 8. He wants to maximize his pressure before that turn 8 comes up, like we're discussing. It's just tough because now I see this Zoo deck and it just looks really bad.
It's tough, for sure.
Yeah. And now Hunterace is in that position where he's in a really good spot. I mean, he could get away with just playing a Swamp Queen Hagatha, the new legendary shaman minion that teaches a minion spells. You guys miss Kazakis from back in the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan where you built a custom potion? You get to build a custom spell minion. The Stormbringer is kind of what you're looking for, but Lightning Storm is also really effective here.
Stormbringer is what I'm always looking for. I think Lightning Storm is more what Hunterace is looking for. That was a snap pick right there.
And
that is an
Feral Spirit.
incredibly powerful horror right here. Drustvar horror with Lightning Storm Feral Spirit. He's going to have a 5/5 for 5 that kills his opponent's board and gives him 2/3 taunts.
It is a very powerful thing. AoE and board development, exactly what you want against Zoo. And those wolves have taunt.
Yes. Very
Hunterace,
big deal.
I mean, I think he's far ahead enough that he can get away with tossing in Ancestral Healing. Man, Hunterace is so greedy. He's going back and forth. Like sometimes, like, okay, I'm the beatdown, so I'm going to go ahead.
One big thing is that Ike's deck doesn't have Soulfire, right? So, like, just getting in like the chip damage isn't nearly as powerful as it is for some other versions of decks that have more burst. He only has Leroy for burst in this deck.
It's true, but without double Magic Carpet, I mean, it feels like the Swamp King character would trade 2 for 1 in this spot.
It's true.
Which makes me feel like, I kind of want to go.
I mean, I actually think there may be the rationale from Hunterace that if his opponent plays Sea Giant, he wants to be able to attack the Sea Giant and play Hagatha. So he doesn't want Ike to attack the Swamp Queen Hagatha.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair enough. Like baiting him to the extent to the board.
Right.
And in the end, gets the value trade anyway, so it works out really well for Hunterace. I mean, I like the upside of keeping Ancestral Healing. You know, if you're able to get the Walking Fountain, for example.
Yeah, look at that scheme.
Crush it. Oh, scheme at 8?
It is. And Ike's going to trade to try and protect the Giant from exactly what I was just mentioning, the Hagatha plus trade. But Hunterace, he's been scheming for a long time. And it might finally be the moment that those plans are set into motion, as this is an 8-point Hagatha scheme that wipes the entire board.
Yeah, if he had 9 mana, he had the Hex and Drustvar to go for a guaranteed board clear with Lightning Storm development and destroying his opponent's board.
He even just drew the Witch's Brew too, so the threat of burst, even getting Ethereal Lackeys off of Evil Genius and finding Soulfires, not going to really be working out. And
right.
I think that we're at the stage where Hunterace feels like he is just in incredible control of this and wants to make sure he does not make a mistake.
Yeah, and that's why I look at Hagatha's Horror and I'm like, is it really that bad to just play that in the Acolyte here?
The Horror? Yeah, that's definitely an option.
Oh, I meant the Hagatha scheme and the Acolyte. Like, does he feel like he's wasting his resources by doing it?
I think part of it's interesting. The Drustvar Horror here does give him, a bunch of damage on his opponent's stuff. It does overload him for 4,
right?
Which is a fairly big deal.
And it does give him the ability to scheme the following turn.
I am pretty surprised that he didn't want to scheme here. Maybe that's exactly why he did not. The possibility of a follow-up Sea Giant.
But he has a Hex.
Right. I'm just trying to think through.
Right.
I think that the second Sea Giant, Ike might think, okay, well, my first Sea Giant didn't die. Maybe the second one's safe, and then the Hagatha scheme comes down.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, actually, because Hunterace is so fixated on the value of being able to get the Hagatha scheme and saving Hex for any kind of Hail Mary attempt that he should be good to go in almost any scenario here.
It's interesting.
Also, I think he's worried about a Solarium was already played, actually.
Yeah, Solarium was played. I mean, there's one remaining Sea Giant after this Sea Giant, and I mean that's part of why just being able to scheme last turn, wipe everything off, and have the Hex in reserve just feels particularly powerful to me.
Right. Now it's like he doesn't even really need the scheme. He could just hex.
Right, well, he can just hex.
Yeah.
You know, trade off the 5/5.
Yeah. The scheme is for the nuke option, the nuclear option, in case Ike does something amazing, like Evil Genius into Ethereal Lackey, into like Rafam's scheme, into like crazy board development with Grim Rally. I think that's kind of. But even then, he has like Hagathis, just as a battle cry.
Oh god.
This is dicey to say the least.
Maybe Ike's the fatigue plan.
Yeah, trying to make him draw out.
Oh god.
Woo. Solarium.
Another one. Okay.
Flesh veins.
All
Man,
right,
that's
well,
a clear board.
Yeah, and now now Ike's like, all right, well,
That's a Hagatha coming down.
you. Oh god.
Woo! Twist the tree, foul the lake, and curse this
And there's even just the ooze to follow it up, get a spell, and both walking fountains in hand for Hunterace.
Yeah.
And
Hunterace, stop. He's already dead. Come on, man. I mean, good on Ike to play it through. Even if you have a 0.5% chance of winning or less, sticking through it, as long as it's above 0. But I think this is almost as close as it can get to 0. He has double Giggling Vendor, double Walking Fountain.
right, Shutter Walk for the horror and for the Hagatha.
Yeah, I mean, we joked about having, like, I kind of wish you had Rafam in this position. I think he'd very much take that. Still a reasonable board, too, despite everything.
It's true.
Dude, Walking Fountain, though.
That is the real deal.
Yeah, new common elemental that has Wind Fury, Lifesteal, and Rush. You can combo it with all the Ancestral spells, Ancestral Healing, Ancestral Spirit. And Ike is going to scoop him up. That is game 3 over to the Norse player.
And this was what Hunterace really built this deck to do. Just absolutely dominate. I hope we all win, but only one player can win this match, and Hunterace is just one game away. And Ike's deck here is a very unique one. He is only one of 2 players in this tournament who's playing Token Druid, period. And he is the only player who is playing this kind of hybrid version of Token Heal Druid that he has brought. He has 2 copies of Crystal Stag and 2 Life Weavers as the heal cards effectively in the deck. But also has like Ornery Tortoise and the Crystallizer we see in his hand to enable those against decks that don't necessarily damage him.
Right. So in the Rise of Shadows, one of the new mechanics for the Druid class is to restore health just in general. And if you do, you get a bonus add effect. No different than if you guys played Jan'alai, the Dragonhawk from Roscon's Rumble, to summon Ragnaros. If you heal 5 health throughout the game, Crystal Stag summons a copy of itself, which is a 4/4 Rush minion. And everyone knows Rush is pretty darn good in Hearthstone. And then Life Weaver, of course, being able to generate those extra spells, very similar to Lyra, the Sun Shard from Journey to Ungoro. Having this Hail Mary, but also incredible value generation, can be extremely powerful, especially with Druid, with class that has traditionally had a lot of powerful spells.
Hunterace's hand, though, pretty powerful here for this matchup. And Ike actually with an interesting decision here because he has that Whispering Woods in his hand. And he did just get 2 squirrels from that Acorn Bearer. Acorn Bearer, by the way, I think one of the quietly just the strongest cards in the set in terms of how it enables this deck. Not only giving you additional token minions you can play to buff, but also increasing your hand size for Whispering Wood and still allowing you to play proactively.
Also very on point flavor-wise because if you've never seen 2 squirrels fight over a nut, it is absolutely hilarious. So in the fact that when someone drops the acorn, 2 squirrels pop up, it's just very well designed thematically. I like it.
Hunterace now, he has the Rabble Bouncer and the Mind Control Tech in his hand. Got to be on Ike's mind. Specifically, the Rabble Bouncer is so powerful if he does extend very wide in the board. Can go down to 0 mana against the full board.
What to do?
And this was, as I mentioned before we went to the break, one of the decks that I was most concerned about.
Yes, although I think a Zoo Warlock is definitely backing up the statistics at least. For now, we'll see if Hunterace can deal with this first threat check.
And Hunterace has an amazing turn here if he wants it. He has Rabble Bouncer into Mind Control Tech.
Arena's full.
0 cost 2/7 taunt.
Yeah, I was thinking the
No one of your
scale worm
guys-
can have to be
Okay,
really
he's
good
actually not
too.
going to MC attack. He's going to go ahead and just Acidic Swamp Ooze and ping.
Yeah, mind control deck is better when your opponent keeps buffing.
That's
forward.
true. That is true. He wants to go ahead and use his hero power to just plink one off while he still has that opportunity.
That's right.
And Ike does have the opportunity to Power of the Wild here if he wanted, but now he's down to a board of 5, and that Rabble Bouncer's in play. That is just a really rough situation. He's not really able to make much headway with the buff card.
I'm a big fan of just buffing and pushing here.
Yep.
I don't think you have much time against the mage deck. If you give them setup, they will be able to do really powerful things against you. Ooh, interesting. Hey, Ike, when you don't know what to do, go face.
I mean, what happens? They have less life.
And then you
And
kill
if
them so they're dead.
Yeah. All right, there we go.
Hey. he talks the talk and he walks the walk.
It's true. So Ziliax is an option for Hunterace here. He can clear off the entire board and still have the option of Scale Worm next turn.
Right.
Interestingly, Hunterace, he is not really in the sort of advantaged perspective resource-wise right now because he has not found his Spectres, at least in terms of cards in hand.
Yeah.
Though his cards are certainly more powerful than Ike's. Ike with those 2 squirrels and no way to buff him outside of that Tending Torn at the moment. It is interesting. Ike is playing Tending Torn rather than playing Blessing of the Ancients,
Right.
The new Twin Spell card, and that's a very interesting decision that I think may serve him well. One of the things that we saw in Jing's match just yesterday when he lost with his Token Druid repeatedly was that he had a ton of buff spells and nothing to do with them. He would have Power of the Wild and Savage Roar and Blessing the Ancients and just no minions. And Tending Tauren is a minion that is much more powerful in terms of giving you that flexibility. And I think we may. It looks like Ike's actually going all 4. Okay, he's not going to play around Mind Control Tech.
Yeah, I think Mind Control Tech is not something that's on his mind. I think he's kind of setting up the best tendies. The best tendies available to him.
And now, Hunterace, he has that Scale Worm ping still available, so he can take out 3 of these minions.
And keep the Ziliax alive.
Yep.
That is really nice.
And this is just a really rough situation for Ike here as his board is just getting...
Yeah, have we mentioned that
step.
Rush is a really powerful mechanic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why Ike even values it in his own deck, Crystal Stag,
Right.
to try to get that Rush effect.
Crystal Power is the draw. Not really very powerful right now.
Yeah, this might look like Ike is considering obviously developing or just utilizing Swipe in this position. Crystal Power, a new spell that gives you the choice of either restoring 5 health and getting that activation through Life Weaver or Crystal Stag, or you can just deal 2 damage. Very similar to...
The Tending Tauren uses his
Living
mana
Roots.
most effectively this turn. Gonna go with the Swipe, though.
Yeah, the thing about Tending Torrent is that it gives really good trades for Hunterace once again, and then that Ziliax will take out effectively 2.5, 3
Well,
cards.
he could kill the Ziliax with his 1/1 remaining in play.
You're right. Sorry, but
I am
it's
a
okay.
little bit surprised by the Swipe there. Maybe the thought process is that Swipe is just not going to be good later. Summoning Portal, interesting.
that ends up being very good for a summoning mage that
It
wants to play
does.
big stuff. Like Mountain Giant, I think is playable.
You see Hunterace nodding a little bit. All right. My summoning theme deck is continuing.
Yeah, actually, Mountain Giant was playable either way, but now you can play both Mountain Giant plus something else. So, Ike going another swipe.
I mean, there's no great way, and this is kind of part of why I felt like the Tending Tauren last turn. Yes, it would have left up the Scale Worm, but you would have had the 2/2s along with the Tending Tauren. Scale Worm could kill one of them, and now Ike has these Tending Taurens which are behind other minions, where having obviously like an additional swipe here he couldn't play anyway. But he'd have the bodies on the board. He would have a 3/4 and a 2/2.
I'm inclined to agree. Because, and you know who else might agree? Because Bloodyface might agree too, because he's been
Player thing that costs the most mana.
he's been very critical of players that have been favoring using removal and hero powering a little bit to try to be more value oriented. But He's saying if you're like a deck that really wants to get on the board, why not get on the board?
Well, this is a really good mind control tech opportunity for Hunterace.
Yeah, I think the Twilight Drakes.
Even Drake MC tech? Oh my god. This summoning portal is... Oh, and he takes the 3-4, takes the Tending Tauren.
And he also can play one more minion in these 6 Wampus. He can go so wide. He's the token mage. It feels like he's going faster and wider on the board. Yeah, Ike's in a bad spot to say the least. But if he's able to weather this, Hunterace has no cards left in his hand.
Yeah, but he has 7 things in play.
Yeah. If.
That's a really big if. Like, well, I don't know what the sequence of cards that I could draw that would allow him to get out of it.
Like Life Weaver, I mean, I guess maybe you haven't been on the receiving end of just like, you know, the Miracle Druid type situation, but I've seen some wacky stuff happen from that.
All right. Explain to me how Ike gets out of it.
Okay, he draws
Life Weaver.
He draws.
Life Weaver, right?
He draws Crystal Stag at one point and removes half
So
of the board.
he can't draw. Crystal Stag is not enabled.
Right, but he can't enable
Can't
it
even
yet.
Crystal Power. He's at 26.
Right. In the future turns. And
How many turns does he have here?
3?
What to do?
He's going to remove at least 2 of these minions.
That's
or
true.
3 of these minions.
With the swipe here, he's killing some stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he can remove 2 more of these minions and just put 7 power on the board, then he is not using Crystal Power for its heal, so I think he'd rather just utilize its heal, maybe? It's close. I guess because he has 2 more minions to play on 9, he'd rather just utilize his mana efficiently now.
Oh my god, Book of Specters.
All right.
We're talking about, well, how does Ike win
Okay.
here? All right, well.
If he didn't have Book of Specters, he would have been drawing this.
It's
and
true.
it's like, I think I could have came back if he just drew one big 4 stage, for example. I think he still can.
Yeah, no, at this point, after that sequence removal and that book into mostly air, and now Hunter is in the position that, do I hold these Witch Doctors or do I just try to push you down with damage? How much? There's 6, 7, 8, 9.
Wait.
Wait! He drew Forest Shade! Oh my god!
Hold on, Kibler.
All right.
That is a big draw for Ike.
Conjurer's Calling.
That's a nice draw, too.
Okay, and there's still, that's a 6-drop he has from the Tending Tauren.
Power of Creation.
All right, this game got a
3
lot more
mana.
interesting than I thought it was going to get.
Woo!
All right, well.
That's a good one and a bad one. But that's okay, because then you can use it again.
It's true. All right.
Are you kidding me? That is the power of Conjurer's Calling.
That was basically a power of creation right there.
Yeah.
With Khadgar in play.
And now Hunterace is pushing for lethal. Ike doesn't have the time anymore.
All right, those were a couple of big swings going back and forth there. And yeah, now 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
The soul of that's the soul of Far's draw. The taunts in the way are massive.
Right,
here.
yeah, that 4-7 taunt. What was that? I forgot the guy's name. I want to say Temple something, but I don't think that's right.
Well played.
Ornery Tortoise. And there it is. So Hunterace takes the series 3-1 in a game that was much more volatile than I at least was willing to believe